reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Jesus moved about within Galilee. He did not wish to travel in Judea because the Jews were trying to kill him, but the Jewish Feast of Tabernacles was near. But when his brothers had gone up to the feast, he himself also went up, not openly, but as it were in secret. Some of the inhabitants of Jerusalem said, "Is he not the one they are trying to kill? And look, he is speaking openly, and they say nothing to him. Could the authorities have realized that he is the Christ? But we know where he is from. When the Christ comes, no one will know where he is from." So Jesus cried out in the temple area as he was teaching and said, "You know me, and also know where I am from. Yet I did not come on my own, but the one who sent me, whom you do not know, is true. I know him because I am from him, and he sent me." So they tried to arrest him, but no one laid a hand upon him because his hour had not yet come. The Gospel of the Lord. As we Christians look back upon the Hebrew Scriptures, we read all kinds of passages that indicate, first of all, the Messiah, what would be the characteristics of the Messiah, and also this whole effort to go against the Messiah and finally put him to death. And then we see that working itself out as the life of Jesus unfolds. And we can ask ourselves, why should there have been all of this turmoil? Why should there have been all of this tension? The wicked said among themselves, "Let us beset the just one. Let us condemn him to a shameful death." These were their thoughts. And as we know throughout the gospel, right from the very beginning, there is all that opposition to Jesus. Well, as we look at it in terms of the bigger picture, we recognize, because it is our faith, that Jesus came willingly to take on all of this. This was the plan. He was ready to enter into this ordeal at the end of his life. And it was meant to be a way of showing to all of us how much he loves the human race, every single member of the human race, and pours out his heart to take on all of our sinfulness, all of the results of our sinfulness, even though he himself was without sin. And in the process of taking that all on, to love us into freedom, into healing, into wholeness, into reconciliation. And so as we come to another Friday of the season of Lent, it's appropriate that we should reflect upon all of this. How, as our catechism says, Jesus died for all of us. It's the sins of all of us that put him to death, not just those few people who lived at his time. They were just representative, those who went against him, those who persecuted him, those who put him on trial, his own followers who betrayed him and abandoned him. They are all representing us and the ways in which we do that so often over and over again in our lives. And yet, as we know, Christ Jesus loved those who were his immediate persecutors, and he loves all of us down the ages. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And as he commends himself to the Father, "Father, into your hands I commend my spirit," he is doing that as an act of love for all of us, so that we can be reconciled as well. But it had to be the right hour, and so we hear that in the gospel today. His hour had not yet come, and so even though there was all of this opposition, which was there right from the very beginning of his life, it wasn't yet time. The time had to be just right. And then the Christ, who comes from God. So no wonder they didn't know where he came from. We had to sort that out. He comes from God, is going to hand himself over on our behalf. And 2 weeks from today, on Good Friday, we're going to observe that in a special way as we do each year. But we need to be reflecting upon it continually throughout our lives and on these special Fridays of Lent, so that we can embrace what Christ Jesus did on our behalf, he who was fully God and fully human, taking upon ourselves all of our sinfulness and its terrible effects, dying on our behalf, loving us through it all, loving us into salvation. That is what we celebrate at Eucharist. And then, of course, what follows, because of the love of God, resurrection.